Hello, hello, citizens of the world. Shaba Shams here with Shaba Speaks. Today, I am very honored to have Dela Fotoohi with me here. And oh my God, I just discovered Dela through a common friend, and I just fell in love with her. And I so wanted to have her on my show to talk about her background, her experience, and this whole idea of connecting with citizens of the world. So I am really, really happy to have you here, Dela. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Shaba. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me on this show. I'm honored.
Yeah, it's my very pleasure. So welcome. And before we jump into the topics of, asking more substantial questions, I would say, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background? Just let us into your world a bit.
Absolutely, I'd love to. So, I was born and raised in Iran until I was 13, Shaba. And at the age of 13, my mom took myself and my brother and decided to move to France. So we went to France. We lived there for about 3 years. And then she decided that this is not our final destination, that we needed a country where we can thrive and have a better life. So again, she took her two kids and a couple of suitcases, and off she started her journey to Canada, which was a long journey because we didn't have visas. So we had to smuggle into Canada illegally, which we did. And that was over 30 years ago. So today I'm a grateful citizen of Canada, and I wake up every morning thanking my stars, and I kiss my mom's shoulder for bringing us here to this great country that we call home right now. So
see, what a wonderful thing to hear from you, because I am the one who came to the States, so I should be expecting the same thing from my kids. Maybe not.
Absolutely. Shaba, let me tell you, I really consider myself one of the luckiest human beings on earth because I live in such a great country. Often we take things for granted that are so easily given to us. It could be just the certainty, the security, the safety, the food, the roof over our head. But just like that certainty that I'm going to click this switch and it's going to come on, like the light is going to be there, the internet is going to be there, the water is going to be there, just little things like that I think it's fantastic that you've done that for your kids. I know if they're not thankful right now, they will be one day for sure.
Well, I think it depends on the age group. I think you came at the age of 13, which is kind of, you're already older enough to understand. I think the younger the kids are when they come here, the less they really understand, the whole journey of coming to a different country. And I think what they remember, I know that my oldest daughter, actually, she was 5.5. I think what she remembers the most about the move to America, and she blamed me for it at the beginning, was the fact that she didn't speak any English when she was in kindergarten. And oh my God, what an experience. It was a traumatic experience for her, but thankfully now actually she speaks and she writes, and she managed in overcoming adversity, which I like actually to talk about with you as well, because it's always hard to come to a different country. And especially if we haven't spoken English, we don't, when I came to America, I sure did not speak a word of English. And every time somebody would talk to me somewhere, I think I'm getting deported. So you can only imagine the fear that was going in my head all the time. So for you, you're 13, you come to Canada, and then you have to acclimate with a different environment, even though you lived in France before. What was it like for you dealing with maybe a different language, a different environment? What can we tell young adults when they move to a different country for whatever reason? What is the first, second thing you would think they should take into consideration in the process of acclimation?
Thank you. That's a great question. I was actually, I think I went through that initial shock when I moved to France, because coming from a Middle Eastern country, and especially one that was so strict, the freedom that I faced in France was totally shocking to me. And I really struggled. Apart from the fact that, yes, you have to be busy getting to know the language, you also have lost everything that you know. I mean, you leave behind everything you know and you love, your language, your family. As simple as knowing the streets you walk on, the grocery store at the end of the road. You don't have that anymore. You have no familiarity, and now you're put in this new environment, and you feel lonely, and you feel segregated, and you feel all these emotions. But at the same time, now you have to work double, triple, quadruple the amount of um, time that your peers work. You have to put that work in to even get to their level. And uh, academically, that's true. When it comes to finding friends, I mean, I was so popular. I remember, like, I was so popular back in Iran, and my peers, and I had no friends. And now I had to build those friendships again, and it's really tough. I gotta say, and I think it plays a whole lot of um, work. It puts a lot of work on a person's mental health. I truly believe that. And so I think that's one of those things that people need to understand, that it's not as simple as just moving to a new country. You got to be resilient. You got to be ready to work really hard, but you also have to build yourself up so that you are strong enough to face those adversities of not knowing anyone, not knowing the language, not knowing your way around. It's the simple things, not having your neighbor next door saying hi to you. Like, these are all little things that we don't think about, that we take for granted, but these are going to be playing a big part when people move. And so again, like, in answer to your question, so then I moved to Canada, and I had to do that all over again, like, and I wasn't the only one, because my mom had to do it too, and my brother had to do it too. So we all had our own little struggles, but it's not easy. But again, I wouldn't change it. I think it's such great opportunities come with struggles. And if you're not ready, if you're not willing to work hard and face those struggles, then you won't benefit from all the opportunities either. So it's like, it's give and take.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing that you're saying there, because I get a lot of questions from people who are overseas and their dream is to come to America. It still is. And they don't understand the implication, they don't understand the sacrifices. And I mean, thinking that the American dream, by the way, it's really the pursuit of happiness. It's not getting there. So the idea of pursuit already, it's an active verb where you have to really put in a lot to achieve the life you want to achieve, and it's not easy. And my advice always to parents, to really try to connect with your young adult kids, because no matter how hard it is for the parents, the adults are the ones who made the choice, and I think they understood the implication more. But the young adults and the children, not so much. And when they arrive here and they have no support system, and the parents, for whatever reason, sometimes they try to be very protective, they prevent them from connecting with people who are from a different culture or from different religion or whatever. And I've seen it happen when my kids were little. It's absolutely awful to try to just limit your children to not integrate and not understand and not try different things in the name of preserving tradition. So I believe that people who really want to bring the lifestyle they had back home and impose it on the children who live in a different environment, they should just go back. I mean, if you are not allowing your children to try and to integrate within this new world, the new community, to feel part of the system, if you have those kind of fears, maybe this country is not for you, and going, going somewhere else is not for you. But looks like you have done well adapting to this new environment, and you are a best-selling author, you are a speaker, you have a show, like we say in Arabic, mashallah.
No, thank you.
And it's just so admirable. to see women coming from our country and our, that part of the world kind of become successful and achieve great things in spite of the hardship. So tell us a little bit about, I think the first thing is your book, and then I'm going to jump into your podcast, Dela Speaks, I think. Is that what it is, Dela?
Dela's voice.
Dela's Voice.
Yeah.
It's funny, when I started my show, Shaba Speaks, actually, I was going to do it Shaba's Voice.
Oh, is that, see?
So funny, so funny. And then I went with Shaba Speaks from the USA or something like that. So
That's so good.
tell us a little bit about your book. And I do believe you worked with Robert J. Moore.
Yes, yes.
Tell us about that whole experience.
Sure. I met Robert J. Moore actually because I asked to interview him on Dela's Voice. So that was in March. Oh, there he is. So so that was April of 2019 is when. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh my gosh, April 2020. Wow. Yeah, April 2020 is when I asked to interview Robert J. Moore on Dela's Voice, and so he came on. And I didn't think he would come on because he was such a big guy. In my mind, he was not going to say okay. So, but I asked.
Joke, but he's listening, so I'm going to pass on that. Robert doesn't know what I was going to say. Never mind.
So I asked him anyways. I looked at his followers. I'm like, this guy is way too big for me. He's not going to say yes. But he did say yes. And he came on and we had a great talk. His story is fantastic. It blew me away. And then about 2 weeks later, he asked me to host his podcasts for him. His podcast is called The Magnetic Entrepreneur. And I said yes. And so that just opened up many doors for me because Robert J. Moore he's a publisher. He's a multiple time international best-selling and award-winning author. He's spoken on so many stages, but he's also a really cool guy and he knows a lot of people. So I got to interview a whole bunch of celebrities, and it was really great for me because it just it opened up a lot of doors for me. And so while I was doing all of this, Robert was coaching me, and Robert is a publisher, as you mentioned. And so I had started this book the previous summer, but it was just sitting there. It wasn't moving. So I made a commitment to Robert that I would finish my book, and I did. And so my book was published in July of this past summer, 2020. And I've got it right here. And I'm very proud of this book, Shaba. It's called Enjoyness.
Mm.
The title I had come up with a long time ago. It was on my bucket list. How I started living the life I was meant to live. And it's basically my journey of how I left Iran and how I grew up in an alcoholic home, and all the struggles and all the difficulties. Also my experience with my brother's schizophrenia, and how as a family we dealt through mental health, and how I overcame a lot of my own shortcomings and flaws, and I'm still working on them. And all of what it took for me to finally start living a joyful life. So that's what my book is all about. So it offers a lot of stories into my own personal life, but also a lot of tools that I've used to recover, basically.
Wow. So many things I want to ask you about. The upbringing, the dysfunctional environment, and how you overcame the other side of you, that the work you needed to do to get you where you need to be.
Yeah.
But quickly, before I get there, I want to ask you about your podcast, your show. Your experience was, like you say, interviewing people from all walks of life, and including celebrities such as Robert J. Moore. So In the 1800, I believe it, not exactly the year, but Napoleon Hill actually went to meet and interview Andrew Carnegie, who tasked him to interview and look into the life of the successful people and try to find a formula of success based on the people that he observed. So then he has written the Think and Grow Rich that we all use as a Bible pretty much. Um, what are the major or the main things you have observed or learned in the process of interviewing all these people that came to your show?
That's a good question. First of all, that book, Think and Grow Rich, I mean, I think most everybody I've interviewed have read that book and they live by the principles of that book. I mean, that book was written like in 1920s, after the Depression, but it speaks to so many of us today. It's just amazing. I myself have started the study of that book, but almost everybody I've interviewed, Shaba, has talked about a few things, and I'm sure you'll relate to this. First of all, most of them have had their struggles. They've risen above those struggles. They've overcome the mentality of let me rise above this, as opposed to staying in this victimhood state, because that doesn't serve anyone. So every single one of them understands that at some point they've had to take their personal responsibility seriously for the part they play in their lives. So they've taken that responsibility and they've risen above those struggles. And then they've used it somehow to find their passion and their purpose in life. And a big part of that passion and purpose has become service. And that's why they do what they do. That's why you do what you do, Shaba, is because you have this affinity for helping other people, and that's why you do this. I'm sure it's not making you a millionaire yet, but you spend a lot of time doing this. That I know what it takes to build rapports and interview people and put good material out there, and you do that on a daily basis because you love what you do, and it gives you pleasure because it helps other people. So a lot of these people I've interviewed, I find that they live for service. They love helping people. A lot of them have a very strong spiritual life. So maybe they started with nothing, with no spirituality at all, like myself, but now they are stronger spiritually. And that's what I found too, that you need a certain level of spirituality in your life to give you a faith, to give you the strength, the backbone you need when times get tough. And so a lot of them have that. A lot of the people I've interviewed swear by gratitude list, by gratitude attitude. Most of them keep journals and they write their gratitudes every day. And I found, for me, one of the first steps I had to take for recovery was exactly that, implementing a habit where I wrote down a gratitude list. I call it gratitude attitude miracle, because exactly that's what it did for me. I was not a grateful person, but I mean, it changes you for sure. It totally changes you. These people who are making it all the time, these fantastic, successful people, they are resilient, Shaba. They are resilient. They work hard. They are consistent, and they don't give up easily. They look at failure not like failure, but they look at failure like a stepping stone, like a lesson learned, and they move on. They are some of the most courageous, bravest people I have ever met, because they stand up to naysayers, and despite all the objections and the rejections, they are still standing strong, and they do what they do because they believe it needs to be done. Does that answer some of your?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I'm going to turn the question to you now.
Mhm.
How did these interviews and these interactions help you find your voice, your niche, your calling? Or has it been more of an affirmation of what you already wanted to do? You know, you found the it, and then through these interviews, you got more validation, confirmation, affirmation? Or has it helped you somehow find a clearer path in your journey and your calling?
Thank you for that question.
I
You know,
try to make I try to make my guest dive, like do soul searching,
yeah,
or more of like why you're doing what you're doing. um, because what you do we can find out everywhere. I can go to your social media and find out everything about what Dela does,
yeah.
but I want to see the the other side of how the doing came about. Does it make sense? I'm more connected to your being that led to your doing, if it makes any sense.
Thank you for being interested in my being. So I got to tell you, this is the truth. Um, every single time I interview someone, I am humbled
Yeah,
by how little I know, because I learn the entire time I'm interviewing someone, I'm learning from them. And I'm hoping every single time, and this is what I hope for. I'm like, God, please help one person learn something today. And I figure if I've learned something, surely someone else can learn too. Um, but yeah, but by interviewing every single person, I realize I haven't even scratched the surface. Um, and so it keeps me very, very humble. It keeps me grateful for this opportunity. This is like university for me, honestly. It's awesome. I the way I look at it is I get a personal teacher, a personal tutor for an hour teaching me about life. It gives me so much pleasure, and it helps me live my passion. My number one passion in life is to have fun. I don't know what it is for you. um, but I figured out my top 5 passions in life because I took a passion test. And so number one is that I need to be having fun. If it's not fun, I'm not doing it. Do you want to know the rest of them?
oh please, yeah, of course.
Okay, all right.
No.
I'll tell you. Number 2, passion is to impact my surrounding with positivity. And number 3 is to have a world-renowned talk show called Della's Voice, reaching millions of people. Number 4 is to learn something every single day. And number 5 is to be free with my time. So those are my top 5 passions in life. You notice money is not one of them. I tried.
Well,
It
it's implied. If you
didn't
read,
come up. So hopefully, it'll come. Robert J. Moore always says, just live your passion and money will follow.
actually, he put some comments there. So you want to take your show to be well renowned. How did you start it? Why did you start it? And how are you planning to get where you want to be?
So, okay, why did I start? Why did I start? Because I found a voice. For a very long time, I didn't have a voice, Shaba. It was a very quiet voice. And to be honest, it wasn't much of a voice. But as I grew stronger, as I healed myself, I found that I could get my voice heard, that people could be interested in my voice. But at the same time, I realized that by me sharing my stories, it allowed other people to feel okay to be vulnerable. allowed other people to also start sharing with me. So I thought, wouldn't it be wonderful if I could create this platform where people could come on, share their stories, um, and that would be their superpower. And that's exactly how I started. I said, every single person has a story, and that story is their superpower. And if you don't share your superpower, your story with the world, it's like that superhero who hides their superpower. It's no good to anyone. So I thought, okay, I'm going to create this platform where people can come on and they can share their stories and they can help the world, and together we can help heal other people, bring information, inspiration, motivation for wellness and recovery and hope. That's my ideal scene. And so that's how Dela's Voice started. Dela's Voice started at the corner of my flower shop.
Nice.
This sign back here was the sign my husband and I made together. And so I had it there in the corner of my flower shop. And my guests would come into the flower shop on Sundays where we were closed. And we would sit there together and we would have a show, and it would be live. And slowly I decided to bring in live audience. So we bought a whole bunch of chairs and we opened up the space and we invited the audience into the flower shop. And so, and that's when COVID happened.
Mm.
And that was, so like, maybe like within 6 months of when I started Dela's Voice. And then I decided, okay, now I gotta, like everybody else, I had to pivot. I didn't want to stop. But it was great. Now I could, because of Zoom and StreamYard and all this technology, now I could even expand my horizon and start talking to people who couldn't make it into my little flower shop. So then it just blew up from there. Honestly, it just took a life of its own. And so the rest of your question I forgot. That was how and why.
And where and how, the where. How do you know, what is your idea or vision of how you would be taking your show to becoming where it needs to be, or how you envision it to be?
Right. Thank you. So, okay.
I'm so surprised that I still remember the question.
I know. No, that's so good. You're so good. You're so good. So in past October, like I told you before the show, it marked the 1 year anniversary for Dela's Voice. And so I decided that I'm going to start a Dela's Voice in Farsi, which is my mother tongue.
Nice.
And start helping the Iranian community who needs a lot of positivity. And so the stuff we talk about is the stuff that were so new to me when I first started recovering. And I thought, you know what, we could help a lot of people with that. So just again, talks about self-love, self-compassion, stigmas like mental health, and addictions. So these are all the stuff that we discuss and we talk about. And it kind of allows a platform where people can listen to others share their stories and think, hey, that's okay. It's okay to talk about stuff like this. It's okay to say that I was once lost and now I'm found. It's okay to have hope for recovery. We can all get better together. So that was the idea behind Dela's Voice in Farsi, which is called Avay Dela. And that's every Thursday at noon. And so slowly I started interviewing people in the Persian community outside of Iran. But now I'm starting to connect with actual people in Iran. So I speak to professional women in Iran. And I mean, such a great opportunity. This is not a show for women by no means, but I welcome everybody. But I think it's great to have that, this technology again. I mean, we're so lucky. So that's allowed me to take my show even further and reach more people. Shaba, I dream of it, of Dela's voice being on a big platform, like a TV cable, or I mean, I don't even know if we're gonna need TVs anymore. But I definitely dream of this like big network, where Dela's voice would be able to reach millions around the world, and whether that's in English or in Farsi or French or whatever language it may be. Um, it just needs to reach more and more people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely aligned with that. I agree. So maybe we can do Shaba speaks in Bella's voice. Just kidding there. So a question that actually I did not plan on asking you, but it's something that I have been both reflecting on and somehow struggling with. And I am on Clubhouse. I brought up this question or thought with a lot of different Arab groups that I join in discussions. And because we come from similar cultures, I'm going to ask you the question because you kind of touched to it a little bit. What do you think, or how do you perceive the, speaking about trauma can heal you from trauma? Understanding that you had trauma or you dealt trauma, um, acknowledging the trauma, and then the third layer or fourth layer would be speaking about the trauma. All of that is kind of just channels that lead you to healing. And when you heal, you can help others. But you cannot help others if you're still damaged, if you're still broken. So some of us went through that process because we've been brave enough. And I always say courage is not the absence of fear. We had that fear. We dealt with the fear, but we did understand. And I say we because I also grew up in a lot of trauma in my life. But I was courageous enough to deal with it and heal from it. And that's why now I am able to help other people. However, I feel like people from different cultures do not have the ability, the comfort level to speak about trauma similarly. Like, just an example, I hear from a lot of entrepreneurs in the United States, they come openly say, well, I was homeless, I had an alcoholic mother, I lived in shelter homes, I was raped, I was abused. And they use that to connect, to connect with the people in the audience to be able to help them. But the culture I come from, it people don't speak about their trauma. It's embarrassing. We still have a like a cultural embarrassment or discomfort that people from my part of the world, they don't say, I've been abused, I've been beaten up, I've been beat. So how do you perceive the role of culture in preventing people really through going through the process of acknowledging and then healing and then speaking and then helping? How do you perceive it and how you navigate that? And you coming out as from Iran with a strong voice, do you get a pushback? How is, what are you seeing in terms of maybe that can be an obstacle or handicap in really reaching out and helping people truthfully, because there are those veils over the true pain that people have experienced?
Great question. We are so afraid of what we don't understand. We're afraid of what we don't know, and I find that that's what holds back a lot of people. I also heard that our secrets are what make us sick.
Yes.
And so I've made that kind of my reason of why I started talking about all these different things. And I don't mind looking at my flaws, and I don't mind looking at my shortcomings. and saying, "This is, yeah, this is how I felt, or this is how I feel, and it's making me feel sick, and I want to remedy that. I want to recover from this. I want to make this better." And I'm hoping that when I speak out, that could be an inspiration to someone else, because I can only live by example. Um, I can't tell people what to do, but I can show by example that it's okay to come from a place of love and compassion, and say that this is how I felt. This is what's happened in my life. That my dad was an alcoholic. This is how I used to live, and I went through all these things. And what it does, it normalizes things. I think the more people hear about things like that, the more they can feel like, oh wow, yeah, like I felt that too. I lived that too. And even though maybe they don't talk about it right away, but it gives them the courage, because now they know they're not alone.
You
And
know, yeah, go
yeah,
ahead. Sorry,
so
go ahead.
this is what I think happened to me was, um, when I started talking about things, um, and I promise you, Shaba, stigma is not particular to our culture. Stigma is everywhere. I think it's just to different degrees and different things. I think here in North America, right now, we talk a little bit more deliberately about mental health. Um, People have come out and they're brave, and celebrities are now talking about mental health, and all these avenues have opened up. But I don't think it was always like this. So I think what happened to me was, when I started talking out loud about what was struggling me, it allowed other people to feel okay to also talk about it.
Yeah.
And so what we realize is that in sharing our experiences, we're not only helping ourselves heal, but also give hope to other people that they're not alone, that other people are also going through the same thing. We understand. It's that whole idea of me too. I understand what you're going through, because me too, I've been through that.
We should do a show called "Let's Talk About Trauma." I believe, because it's the only way for people to get themselves through it is really to talk about it. And looking back at my own life, I used to have that level of discomfort about talking about certain phases or parts of my life. And I am so grateful, like when you mentioned being, living in this world of gratitude. Whatever happened in my journey of growth, I reached a point like I've first of all learned how to forgive. I think that's a really important part of healing, is forgiving. And you probably know the Serenity Prayer, which I was sharing with a friend of mine recently, is really God grant me the let me
I
see.
can say it. I can say, it's God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I
Wisdom
can,
to
and
know the
the
difference.
wisdom to know the difference. I say that all the time,
Yeah.
every
So
day.
you start living by this, and you forgive, and you understand that these people, even though they hurt you through their lives, they were one, that's all they knew. There is also a cycle that they were caught up in. And then two, they were trying their best. And I truly believe that people who love us, who hurt us at a certain time of our lives, they didn't do it intentionally. They do it because they don't know any better. And I think that once you really start understanding that, and you look at that person in the eye and you say, I know you didn't mean it, and I forgive you. And then you just, oof, I'm having actually goosebumps as I'm saying it, because then amazing doors open to your heart and your soul, and you're free. You are liberated from this heavy weight of anger and pain that you're carrying. And that's really when you can tap into your power and growth. And then you speak about it as if you would be talking about other things,
Yeah.
because you did understand why it happened, you accepted that it did happen, that you can no longer change it, but you actually transcended all that and you forgave it and you let it go. And now you're ready for other phases in your life to attract wealth, to attract success and happiness and love. And you cannot attract love if you're still holding grudges of hate and bitterness, period. So the more beauty you carry within yourself, the more beauty you find around yourself. So I would really encourage people, especially from some part of the world where a lot of these topics are simply taboo, end of discussions, and there are no lot of social and family conversations around them, is to find a safe platform where they can actually talk about it out loud to even understand what the heck happened there. And
Yeah.
until you understand it, you cannot really get over it, and you kind of just bottle it down. And then, you carry the same cycle and you don't even
Yeah.
understand the why.
Yeah.
So that's my take. Robert here saying, I got rid of Clubhouse, too much drama. I can reach all those without the Clubhouse. Yeah, I mean, it depends what you're doing with it. Rizwan actually and I, we did a webinar yesterday. Thank you.
Hello, everyone.
We did it on Speaker Speak, trying to help people become better speakers, and which I believe that interviews actually help you become a better speaker as well.
Yeah, I agree.
And then let me see, actually, Robert said something here. There are some big things coming to both your ways. Just be patient.
Yay.
We're not getting any younger here, so.
I know, right?
We'll see other questions. I wish we had questions from the audience. So Robert says everyone has their own opinion on success. Mine was learning how to utilize my potential and how this would enhance the lives of others. This allowed me to become global. Absolutely. I think when you have purpose and your purpose is bigger than yourself, then that's really where you can really reach your potential. And I always joke around saying depression is a luxury that I cannot afford. That I cannot afford because I love my life and I am, I love to accomplish things. So it's like I cannot afford to be just depressed and, and
It's funny you say that. Yeah, because I remember there was a time in my life where, I was going through depression and I got a coach. And that's when I got a coach. And she asked me, why don't you spend a few minutes every day doing whatever? I can't remember what she said. I said, oh, I don't have any time. I said, I don't have any time. So every time she said something, I was like, I don't have any time. She said, Dela, what is it you do that leaves you no time? And I thought about it, I was like, I'm depression. Depression is that too.
Yeah.
Depression is, so now I don't have time for depression.
I've gone through that. I mean, I think we all had gone through depression.
Yeah.
And really the way I see it now, and I would highly also call on people who are listening to this, when you go through these phases, really don't automatically think about getting to a psychiatric and start taking medication, because sometimes we go through these phases that we call depression when we are shifting. When something is happening in our life and we are about to enter something different, but we don't have the knowledge or the expertise and the abilities and the strength to even shift, understand that there is a shift. So we get overwhelmed, or kind of we're hit with a lot of emotions, and we let go and we give in, instead of, like you say, hire a mentor or a coach, work with a life coach, read some books, and really try to understand what's going on in your life. If something is not aligned, something you don't like about your life, that means the universe is trying to get your attention to changing something. So don't take medication to kill your ability to even process things, but instead dive into that and see what is the shift that you need to make to become more aligned with who you are and what your calling is, and who you are meant to be on this planet. And until you reach that point, I think there's always something, Dela, something kind of like inside you that's and then you don't know how to read it, and you take yourself into a whole different direction. You know. And unfortunately, we don't have a lot of people talking to us about these things, so we don't know what we don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I told you 30 minutes and I lied. I'm sorry.
It's been so much fun.
Talk to you for hours and hours, and I hope
Yes,
this is
me
just
too.
the
I
last
feel like
time.
that too. Thank you.
Before I let you go, I really wish we can, like, maybe we can just hop on Clubhouse and speak for hours.
I've never actually been on Clubhouse before, so I'll give it a try.
Yeah, I'll message me or DM me, and then I will get you in because you need an invitation.
Oh,
So
perfect.
before I let you go, again, thank you so much for being here. What is your call to action if you were to give an advice or two to the people who are listening? What would that be?
So I always leave with something that I call my triple A success formula. So I'm going to share that actually. So my triple A success formula is the 3 A's that I call the 3 A's for recovering from any pickle that you find yourself in. And it really comes down to these 3 A's. So the first A is for admit. Okay, the first step is admitting that there's something not quite right,
Mm-hmm.
that something is not working, whether it's in your relationships, your professional life, whatever, you're just personally, you feel like you said, you feel down. Just admitting that there's something not right. That's the first step. The second step is ask. Ask for help. And that's a really vulnerable stage. And I get it because I was there. But asking for help is huge because if you could have done it by yourself, you would have done it already. So ask the right person, hire a coach, like Shaba said, hire a mentor, talk to a counselor, someone you trust that is knowledgeable in that area. So ask for help. The third step is act. So it doesn't matter how much information you gather, if you're not using it, it then becomes a self-help book. So act on what you've learned. Do something little, even if it's one little thing every day towards that change. So those are my 3 A's
I love
successful.
it.
Thank you.
Love it. Thank you. And maybe we'll meet on another show, and I'll be talking about my 3B process to success.
Ooh.
learn we all learn these processes because we lived them, we did them, we went through them, so for me, my 3B process to success is the being and the balance and then the becoming, and each one requires a set of things you need to do.
That's
Thank you.
interesting. I want to hear about that for sure.
Well, you should have me on your show then.
Let's do that. Let's do it.
Thank you, Dela, for being here. Thank you guys for tuning in. I know there are so many things you could be doing on a Sunday morning, but thank you guys for joining us. Again, this is my beautiful friend Dela speaking. Shaba speaks on health, wealth, relationships to inspire, empower, and connect the citizens of the world. And I will talk to you on the next one. And salam.